Everyone, and welcome back to my channel DIY with NC. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you how I made this beautiful monostrap top. The first step is to draw out our starting line as you see me do in the video. This becomes our shoulder line. Now from that point, I'm going to come down by 10 inches and that becomes my bust point. After marking that out, I'll go ahead and mark out my under bust point, which is 12.5 inches. And then I'll proceed to mark out my half length, which is 16 inches. For the full length of this top, I'm going to be making use of 20 inches, which is the entire length of this paper. Now, after taking note of these points, the next step is to go in with my ruler and draw out these lines so we can proceed to the next step. Next thing I'll be doing here is to go ahead and mark out my shoulder line. Okay, so for my shoulder, it is 16 inches divided by 2, which is 8 inches. So I'll quickly mark that here like you see me do in the video. Okay. Now to get my shoulder slant, at that point where I marked 8 inches, I'm going to come down by 1 inch. Okay. And then I'll proceed to mark out my neckline. So for my neckline, I'm going to be going in by 3 inches and then I'll use my ruler to connect it like so. And then this becomes our shoulder slope. Now to get our chest line, from that point where you have our shoulder slope, I'm going to be coming down by 8 inches. Okay. So I'll quickly go ahead and mark that on the paper. Once I'm done marking that out, I'm going to use my ruler and draw out a straight line at that point, and that becomes my chest line. I'll just quickly label this: chest line, bust point, under bust, half length, and then the full length. After marking this, we are going to be connecting the 8 inches we have on our shoulder line all the way down to our chest line. So I'll just use my tape to measure the 8 inches from our shoulder line. I'm going to measure it on the chest line like so, and then I'll mark that here. I'll also mark it here as well, and then I'll go in with my ruler and connect it. This is so we can get our armhole. After we're done connecting this, the next thing we are going to be doing is to find the midpoint of this. Okay, so with our tape, we're going to measure this. This is 8 inches. The midpoint is going to be 4 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and mark that here like you see me do in the video. Now on that point where I marked the 4 inches, I'm going to go in by half of an inch like you see me do. Once I have done that, I'm going to take my bust measurement, which is 36 divided by 4 gives me 9. I'm going to be marking that on the chest line like you see me doing the video. Now once I'm done with that, I'm going to go ahead and connect from the shoulder slope to the point where we came in by half inch, and then to the point where we marked our bust measurements, just like you see me do in the video. Now after we are done with that, we're going to proceed to impute our darts. Okay, so for my dart point, I'm going to be going in by 3 inches from the center front. So I'm going to go ahead and mark this on the bust point, as well as the under bust, the half length and the full length, before using my ruler to connect this. Alright guys, so after connecting this, I'm going to go down by 1 inch from the bust point. I'll go ahead and make it visible. Now on our half length, I'm going to come out by half inch on both sides. So after marking that, I'm going to use my ruler and connect it to the point where I marked that 1 inch just below our bust point like so. I'm going to connect on both sides, and after doing that, from the full length, the hem of the top, I'll also connect from that point to the half length as well, just like you see me doing the video. So guys, we are now done marking out our darts for this top, so we can now move on to the next step, which will be imputing our body measurements. For my chest line, I had already imputed my bust measurement on the chest line, so I'll just go ahead and add 1.5 inch for seam allowance. Okay, Then for my under bust, it's 32 inches divided by 4, which will give me 8 inches. I'll quickly go ahead and mark that on the under bust line. After marking that out, I'm going to measure the darts area which I took out from here, which is half inch. I'll go ahead and impute that as well before adding the 1.5 inch for seam allowance. I'll go ahead and do the same thing on the waistline. So for that point, guys, I'm going to go ahead and impute my waist measurement, which is 30 inches divided by 4, 7.5 inch. Then I'll take the darts area, the dart which I subtracted 1 inch, and then I'm going to add the 1.5 inch for seam allowance. After doing that, for the hem of the top, that's for the full length area, I'll go ahead and impute my hip measurement at this point, which is 40 divided by 4, and it's going to give me 10 inches. So I'll go ahead and mark that here, 10 inches, and also impute 1.5 inch for seam allowance. After marking this, I'll go in with my ruler and connect it like so. Guys, we are done with this. The next thing is to impute the neckline depth, okay? So for the neckline, I'm going to be going down by 6 inches. You can choose to make it of 5 inches, 7 inches, 4 inches, depending on how high or low you want your neckline to be. But for me, I'll be making use of 6 inches at this point. So I'll just quickly connect this so we can proceed to the next step. Finally, we are done drafting the front piece of our monostrap top, and we're going to be making use of this while cutting the back piece as well. The only difference is that for the back piece, you're going to be inputting a zipper allowance at the center back. I'll quickly cut this out, guys, so that we can use it to cut out the front piece as well as the back piece. So guys, we are done cutting this out, and I've gone ahead to open it up like you see. Now the next step is to mark out the area that you want to have your monostrap, okay? So for this, I'll be going down here by 6 inches. If you remember our neckline, we came down by 6 inches. So that is the exact thing we're going to be doing from the shoulder line here. I'm going to go ahead and mark out 6 inches, exactly what we took for our neckline. I'll go ahead and mark that out. Once I'm done, I'll use my ruler and connect it like so. After I'm done connecting this, I'm going to go ahead and cut this off, and this becomes the monostrap neckline. So after doing this, I'll just proceed and use it to cut out my front piece and my back piece, as well as the lining pieces. Now when cutting out the front piece, I make sure to add an additional 1 inch at the hem of this fabric. This is for allowance since we did not add any while drafting out the front part of this monostrap top, okay? So after I'm done cutting this out, I'm going to use it to cut out the back piece, just as you see me do in the video. Now for the back piece, I'm going to be adding a zipper allowance of 2 inches. I'm going to do that all the way to the end. The front part of the fabric will be placed on that line before we start cutting out the back piece. So after cutting this out, I'm going to go ahead and open up the zipper area just like you see me do. And then once we are done with that, we'll take our drafting paper and cut out the monostrap neckline so we can quickly go on to the next step. So for the back piece, I'm going to go ahead and pin this down, okay? Now I'm placing my pin exactly where I have that 2 inches mark for our zipper, okay? So for the front piece, I've gone ahead to use the drafting paper to cut out the monostrap neckline, and I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing for the back piece as well. This is after I must have used my pin to hold down the zipper area for the back pieces. Now guys, I am done with this. We are done cutting out the monostrap neckline. The next step after this is to cut out the lining pieces. Alright, so after cutting out our lining pieces, we're going to come down from the shoulder by 16 inches. That's if your half length is 16 inches. So for my half length, that's 16 inches. And then on that point, I'm going to be going in by 3/4 of an inch. The reason I'm doing this is to reduce the appearance of any bulkiness around my zipper area, okay? So you can decide to use half an inch, you can decide to use 1 inch, depending on your size. So I'm going to quickly connect this just like you see in the video so that I can quickly cut it out and then move on to the next step. The next step is to go ahead and open this up and then take our lining piece and place it over the fabric like so, okay? After doing this, we'll go ahead and make a stitch from this point all the way to this point using half of an inch. We'll also be doing the same thing for the back piece as well. Once we're done stitching that, we'll go ahead and make a top stitch before turning it over to the right side. After making the stitch round the neckline, I've also gone ahead to stitch down the sides and also turn the hem of this top as well. The next step now will be to join our shoulders together. To join the shoulder together, I'll just be taking the front piece and the back piece. I'll place them like so, and then I'll take the lining piece of one of it and use it to cover both of them, just like you see me doing the video. Once I'm done covering this, I'll use my pin to secure this in place before making a stitch using half an inch from this point all the way to this point. So I have gone ahead to make that stitch using half of an inch just like you see. The next thing I'll do is to quickly turn this over to the right side. So for the second part, recall that we do not have any shoulder to join. So what we're basically going to do is just to go ahead and pin down our zipper area. I'm going to go ahead and use my chalk and mark out the 1.5 inch area so we can use our pin and pin that down before imputing our body measurements. So guys, I'm done imputing the body measurements for my monostrap top and will quickly take this over to the machine and stitch it down. As you can see guys, I am done stitching this down. Okay, the next step will be to cut out our sleeves so we can attach it to this top. Before attaching the sleeve, I'll quickly come in here on the armhole, where we are supposed to have a monostrap sleeve. I'll quickly come in there by 2 inches. Now the reason I'm doing this is because I do not want my sleeve to be loose. I want it to have some sort of fitting. So I'll come in here by 2 inches, connect it like so, and use my scissors to cut this out. Once I'm done cutting this out, I'm going to go ahead and cut out my sleeve so that I can attach it to this top. Alright guys, so I'll be cutting out the sleeve for the part that has the shoulder. So for the full length of this sleeve, I'm making use of 17 inches, and for the width, I'm making use of 20 inches. So I'll quickly mark this out and cut it out. So for the second part of the sleeve, the off shoulder part, I'll quickly just take this top, place the armhole here and mark it out like this, okay? So once I'm done marking this, I'll just go ahead and cut it out. We're also using the same length of 17 inches by a width of 20 inches, just like we did for the other sleeve. The only difference is that for the upper part of the sleeve, we're cutting it out straight, and then the armhole, we made use of our top. We just placed the top on the sleeve to draft out the armhole and cut it out. Okay guys, so this is what our sleeve looks like, all right? So we're going to go ahead and attach an elastic band on this point, the top part of the monostrap sleeve, and also for the hem of the sleeve as well. But for these other parts that will be connecting to the shoulder, we're not attaching any elastic band at the top. We'll only be attaching an elastic band to the hem. So let me quickly take this over to the machine and do that so we can move on to the next step. So I've gone ahead to attach my elastic band to both sleeves as you see, and I'll quickly attach this to my top so we can see what it looks like. So guys, I am done attaching the sleeve, and I've also gone ahead to add my zipper to the back of this top. and this is what it looks like. It is so pretty. I hope you found this video very helpful. If you did, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already done so. I'll see you in my next video. Bye.